Morning folks, 13th of January 2022. Simon and Mabel out again, and it's still lovely and sunny. So after all that rain we've had after Christmas and before, it's staying lovely. We've come up Machin Lane today, so just up this single track road, and it runs up from Stocksbridge and Underbank Reservoir, so it's a continuation of the Oaks Lane walk that we put online the other day. It's gorgeous. So over to the left here we've got the Stocksbridge Valley, which is industrialised and residential. That one in the distance is Sheephouse Ward, the one we've been using and talking a great deal about, and Underbank Hall in the distance there. But of course over this left side, it's not in the Peak District National Park, so you've got the big electric pylons and lots of industry, lots of house building. But then, what I've been discovering just recently is the edge and the boundary that we are so close to with the Peak District National Park. So I'm going to walk up to that today. I did actually do a walk yesterday and I didn't film it. So I've been looking at my Ordnance Survey map and just working out where the edge of the Peak Park boundary on this side, this Yorkshire side, actually runs. So I'm going to actually visit that today by foot rather than driving up there. There's riding stables and schools up here on the top. There's a lot of bridleways and horse tracks, and just in about 50 yards or so we're going to cut off to the right, and there's a public right of way up between these two fields here. Mabel was a bit sluggish this morning. We did have a big walk yesterday, and then we were out at rugby last night, so we always walk around at rugby, so she's still a pup, so I think she was just a bit tired. But she seems fine now, she's out and about as usual. There's a big oak tree. And this one is a restricted byway, and in brackets, no motor vehicles. So it can be used on foot and horses. There's plenty of evidence of horses up here. And I think this one is known as Muddy Lane on the Ordnance Survey. It's a classic. So we'll cut up here. So coming up Machin Lane there, I've seen two vehicles in the space of 10 minutes, so it's quiet. It is a Friday. It's a nice quiet little back road. I'm going to let Mabel off on here. Mabes, come here. Go on then. She's heavily again into her sticks as usual. Come on, Mabe. One thing I was wondering as well when I was out with her yesterday about this type of breed that she is, very much hunting, discovering things in thick undergrowth, is the tail. And sporting dog owners always say that the breed, not this particular breed I don't believe, but a lot of breeds of that nature need to have the tail docked so they don't get ripped to shreds on the undergrowth. Well, one thing I've noticed already is she holds her tail quite high when she's in undergrowth. She does anyway when she's out. And legs, ears getting ripped to shreds as well. They don't trim them off, so I'm not sure. It's not something I would want to do. And they said no motor vehicles down there, but there's some quite obvious marks that a tractor's been down here of some sort, 4x4. So whether it's just a local tractor that uses it. As we're climbing higher, and I have done, I've climbed quite a height since I left home. My breathing, as you can hear, is starting to get a little bit laboured. It's a nice soft track, this one. Lovely underfoot. Health-wise, I thought I was improving the other day, and then I'm having these days where I'm just really tired. So it's post-viral, I'm sure. So whether I've had the Omicron, like a lot of people are reckoned to have had, and it's just not tested positive because I didn't do my tests early enough within the illness period. I just isolated and did it afterwards. So I think I may well have had it, or something else nasty. And looking at the recovery period for the corona and Omicron, they say that you can have days where you feel fine and then other days where you feel lousy. Shortness of breath problems, really tiredness. There's a public footpath there that cuts across the fields. Yeah, and I know where that goes. So we'll not do that one today, because that is a grassland field with horses in it. Mabel! So Mabel's seen them. Come on! So she's tempted, but she's disciplined enough, thankfully, to come back. She smelt them and saw them, and she could have got over that herself, actually, there. But she's been pretty good. Come on then. And she's been great company while I've been poorly. I'm getting that bit older. I always said I'd love to have a dog as I got that bit older again. I just didn't have the time when I was single and full-time working, of course. So you've got a thick layer of gorse and bramble down to this right-hand side. And it's these areas that don't necessarily look particularly attractive, especially this time of year. But they're great for things to hide in. You can see things have used it there. Rabbits, hares, weasels, stoats, voles to get away from predatory birds. I'll put you on pause a sec. So there's a lady just going past there on a horse, so we've just popped into the side. Look at that view. So that's the top of Stocksbridge and down to Deepcar. And then over the hill down there is Bolsterstone. And interestingly enough, the Peak Park boundary runs right to the edge of Bolsterstone, and I think covers some of the fields there and runs down one of the sides, and it's a beautiful old medieval village with Anglo-Saxon history. Come on. It's you now. So yeah, this is a well-trodden path for horses. I know there's a riding school down there as well. So we get manure from a local horse owner, but very kindly as well. She's a retired librarian called Dawn, and she gives us hay. So if we take some of her manure away, she actually gives us some bags of hay for free. So it's a nice relationship. We made a little friend with her. We used to have it for our allotment, but unfortunately at the moment we don't have the allotment because of time restraints and health. So, but it was ideal. So I'm still, because we've got the big garden, I'm still collecting the manure, storing it, composting it for the garden, and we get the hay for the animals, for the rabbits and ducks and hens. So that's a permissive footpath there onto this. I believe on the map it's Whitwell Moor and it's moorland. I've just heard grouse, red grouse, flying across it, that traditional cackling noise that they make and the low flight pattern. So I've just seen them, and I saw them yesterday as well higher up. So this is Whitwell Moor, whether it's owned by the local council or a private landowner. Go on. But we're going to carry on up what I think is Muddy Lane. I'll double check on that when I get home. I think this is Muddy Lane, although there's one further down. It might be further down. The Wind Hill Lane is the one at the other side of Whitwell. We're starting to flatten out a little bit now onto the top of the moor. We're nearly there. So we just met another dog walker, so we were on pause. So yeah, we're coming to the top of this lane, and thankfully it's not overly windy. Although I can see in the distance there the wind farm. There's 3 of the biggest turbines, and today they're not turning, so not sure why. I know they do get switched off, don't they, sometimes. So there's a little car park area here, and this is known as Long Lane, just here. Come on. And this brings us out up here to Long Lane. And the clue's in the name, it's just long and it's straight. And then the public footpath continues across onto Whitwell Moor and its access land. It says, although you are free to walk where you wish across the land, coloured yellow on the map, the main paths and areas shown by the black dotted lines. Please keep dogs on lead at all times in the vicinity of livestock, and at all times between the 1st of March, 31st of July to protect ground nesting birds. And that's a sign from Sheffield City Council. So I'm guessing it's owned by them, or they manage it. Public footpath, no bicycles, no horses, no motorised vehicles, Sheffield City Council. So yeah, they must have a management in place. But today, we're not going to do that one. Oh, look at that big old gate post there. That's lovely. Holes through it. That's big, like a standing stone, prehistoric. And it's got the old metal struts at the bottom for the gate. There's a lovely little camper van there. But we're going to go to the top of Long Lane, and we're nearly at the highest point of the moor now. The trig point on the top of Whitwell Moor, I believe, is the high point, and that's just beyond the trees up there. So anything in this sort of area and over into the Derbyshire Peak District, anything with well on the end, obviously can suggest that there's well water in the vicinity, but it can also be a corruption of the word wall. And the village I grew up in, Tides Well, is a corruption of the Anglo-Saxon chieftain Tiddy and his wall around his burial chamber and burial site on Tideswell Moor. And then the village where my dad's family are from, Bradwell, is actually a corruption of Broadwall, or the Roman fort at Brough next to the village of Bradwell, and the wall that apparently ran around it. And that's where the name came from. So there is a Bradwell on Sea down in Essex, I believe, but they're the only two. But it's Broadwall. So often these names can be a little bit deceptive and misleading. So Long Lane, yeah. There's a car park at the top, just for probably half a dozen cars. And then over to the right, this is a continuation of Whitwell Moor, I believe, and the access land, with Long Lane running through in the middle of it. And that below down there is Sheephouse Ward, our favourite. So this intimate connection between you and your local landscape is one that everybody can have. Even if you're in a city, you'll find you're never that far from something that's either been protected, whether it be a building or a moorland or an old common land, which is enshrined in English law for use. So that connection there is never far away, and it's something that I firmly believe we all need to survive and keep ourselves healthy. It's that connection and exploring every inch of your local area. Just know it. So what I noticed yesterday from this Long Lane car park is there's a wall runs down the side here, which is virtually 6 foot high, 5.5 foot at least, which is unusually high for a dry stone wall. There's no mortar in it, there's hardly any damage to it. It's that one ahead there. Really, really unusually high. So you come to the top point here, and we've got the public footpath here that runs over to Trig Point just there. Just paused it again there, somebody came towards me, carried on my talking, and I was holding the camera towards the guy, and people always look at you and think, oh, I'm on film, but it's nothing to worry about. So there's a point here at the top of Windhill Lane which meets Long Lane, and there's this walk here that we actually did 2 days ago down the Windhill track and down the valley into the bottom to Oaks Lane, and then to the left here we've got this beautiful ancient old beech forest, and then we're going to carry on down Windhill Lane because what I've discovered is just the other side of this this forest here to the left is the Peak Park boundary. So the nerd within me is wanting to understand why they put this boundary in, and why they put it in here, and why they didn't put it over here. And this is a beautiful little dip into the bottom. And again, this walk today has been on this local single track road. I mean, you can pass with 2 cars, but it essentially is just single track. Mabel's darting about as usual. Thick, crispy undergrowth. And then there's a gate there at the bottom, and that takes you up through those woods there. That's quite overgrown, that one. And this is full of oak and beech. Just that's all that's in there. And they look really old, they look weather beaten. Look at that old wall, lichen covered wall. And there's wimberry and just small holly dotted about as well. The wimberry don't seem to be doing particularly well. There's some here, but whether it's just this because it's this time of year, they're just not getting enough sunlight. That's a real annoyance. Somebody's just decided they're going to dump, and it's garden waste by the looks of things. They've just chucked it over the wall. Mabel. Sorry for the shakiness of the camera. Mabel's pulling around. So it apparently runs to here, to this corner. So this corner here is the edge of the Peak District National Park boundary, if I've read it right. And this lane, Windhill Lane, it runs that side of the lane. And over this side, being a low point in the valley, of course, there's moving water. I can hear it. Mabel, Mabel. Down the bottom there. Somebody coming down the hill on a horse. I'm just going to pause it a sec. It's quite frosty in the bottom here as well. So I've just heard grouse again over here, but what really interests me with this field, and always has, in the middle of it, there looks like to be some sort of standing stone structure, which may be a chambered cairn or tomb of some sort. So I'll have another look at the Ordnance Survey. They're not always marked, but it might be an old field structure, or it might just be a natural structure, because there's a lot of gritstone around here, the gritstone moor, which I'll video. I did video the other day, didn't I? Up to the rocks. So that's interesting there. I'd like to get into that field and have a closer look, but there's no public access as far as I can see, unless I came down through the wood. There's just been a horse that's gone round and down to this farm. And they have geese wandering about in the bottom down here. So this is a new route for me today, even though I have walked this in the past. It's not with a dog, and it's a good while ago. It's taken us up to a slightly busier road on the top. I've done it specifically, as I said, because to the left here is the Peak Park boundary, and this road just runs across it, down the side of it. And these fields are in it. Mabel, Mabel. This is the first car I've seen coming down for a good while. So it's not well used. Mabel. Mabel. Stay there. Apologies about that.